Hey there, Pirate Crew, and welcome to another video tutorial. Today we are starting a new series where we are going to be painting the Marvel Crisis Protocol miniatures, and we're going to be starting with the Hulk. So just a heads up, I'm going to be speeding up some of the footage just so that for some of the repetitive stuff you can see the process, but we're not going on for 10 hours. We are essentially doing something similar to what I showed you in the how to use intense colors speed painting sessions, where we're doing a zenithal priming, and then what we're doing here is we are using phthalo green blue shade, which is a cooler green, and we're just going to be washing over this a couple of times. It's as simple as that. Now, we don't want to do an intense wash. We don't want it like pooling up like crazy. We just want it just tinting the surface so that we can see all those awesome highlights and shadows that the airbrush created. And here we are coming back and doing it the second time around. While I'm going through and doing this second round, I want to talk to you a little bit more about all of the colors that we are going to be using. So the palette's super simple. We're really only using 5 colors total. We're using phthalo green blue shade, and we're using phthalo green yellow shade. And then on top of the phthalo blue yellow shade, we are using a Hansa yellow, which is essentially like a cool, pretty easy color palette. And you're going to see why we're using those colors here in a second. What I did here is I took it aside. I did that second round of zenithal airbrushing over the greens that we already did. And now we're coming in with that phthalo green yellow shade. And we're trying just to cover the bits of the white with this warmer green color, right? So just to remind you of the process that we used in those speed painting intense colors, we used a relative cool color and then a relative warm color, and then we could essentially continue to bump that up by mixing in yellow or red, or just whatever the relative warm colors are. For green, there's really only one way to go, which is yellow, right? If we look at the color wheel. So that's what we're doing. We're gonna go over this a couple of times just with the phthalo green yellow shade, and then we're going to start to mix in that Hansa yellow as we go. So it's a very easy process. We really aren't having to worry too much about where am I placing my highlights, where am I placing my shadows. All of that is really determined for us already, which is freaking awesome, and we can just paint, right? And I love these kind of processes for that exact reason. So also, though, just to touch on this, because I know a few of you guys are going to have the question, what if I get my phthalo green yellow shade off of the white highlighted parts? No big deal. All of these colors that we're using are fairly transparent. And, if we get it a little bit over, if we're getting it into the darker areas, it's not really going to hurt us too much because that part is already dark and cool. And so those dark and cool parts are going to have to balance out with just that little bit of like the warmer green, right? And so it's not gonna make a super big impact. You don't need to be super dainty with it, but you need to be a little bit careful with it, right? It's supposed to be a fast and fun process. Also, I appreciate you guys' patience on this video. With everything going on, I've really only had time to put out one a month, and that's going to be the way that it's going to be probably for the rest of the year. Everything going on, all that craziness, so I appreciate it. But yeah, other than that, I appreciate the support on the Patreon. I know it's been a little here and there, but I'm doing my best to get that single video out for you guys every single month. So, in touching on the face here, really the exact same process on the face. You can be a little bit more careful if you'd like, but you don't need to be delicate with it. Just like with the rest of the body, all the highlights and shadows are kind of predetermined for us. All right, hopping into the time lapse here so that you guys can see me do the next couple of coats of it. Once I kind of have it to an area where it's not looking quite as pastel, because that white can make the color feel a little bit pastel, we're going to start mixing in some yellow, some of that cool Hansa yellow into the phthalo green yellow shade, and that's how we're going to do our highlights. So just kind of giving you guys the next steps while we work on the current step. And you can see, as we move forward too, I'll become a little bit more careful. This is entirely up to you. Like I was saying before, this process is a ton of fun. It's really great because you can be as careful or, not careful as you really want to. We're really just washing and washing and washing in a very, very controlled way. I don't even want to use the G word, glazed. But yeah, it's we're just doing very liberal glazing here. So jumping forward here a little bit, now I am using a much more intense phthalo green yellow shade here, and we're starting to impact those upper parts, and you can really see the color starting to come through now. It's becoming much less pastel. If you want to, the phthalo green yellow shade, out of the tube or out of the bottle is very transparent. You can be more aggressive with it if you like, if you don't want to thin it down and do more washes or glazes, but you have to be a little bit more careful, but still not hyper careful, right? I had a blast too painting these Marvel Crisis Protocol miniatures. They're super, super cool. The sculpt of the Hulk, I love it. I want more sculpts of the Hulk, just because the anatomy and everything is so like oversized and she's just like ripped. And to be honest, they're really great practice models if you want to practice painting like anatomy, because all of the different pieces of anatomy are very, very clear, which is super cool. Makes life a bit more easy, when you're learning all that stuff. But yeah, this process too was meant to make painting him fun and fast and easy without having to do 1,000 layers, right? We can just kind of kick back and, throw these transparent glazes over and over and over again and get like a super, super intense, yellow-green Hulk without like hitting our head up against the wall. We can throw him on the table and be super proud of him. Anybody can do this technique. I've taught this class now, for the style of painting in quite a few places, and people really enjoy it because this level of simplicity is really high. It's very similar, to be honest, to the Games Workshop contrast paint style of painting, with just like a touch more control. And it also brings in the zenithal priming side of it. So again, just coming through here, just adding little bits more of yellow as we go. The process from this point forward really doesn't change too much, besides that add a little bit of yellow, it turns into a little bit more of a layering, but that kind of layering is very, very relaxed, because if we slip up a little bit, not really going to hurt us too much because of these transparent colors, right? Transparent colors are amazing. The more I paint with them, the more I think that they are just like, that's where it's at, right? A lot of people in this hobby are like, no, I need opaque, I need coverage, I need opaque, I need coverage. But if you can kind of wrap your head around how transparent colors work, you'll be able to paint more vibrant colors. You will be able to paint faster. I mean, there's just tons of that. You'll get more color nuance because of the ways that the colors are interacting from lower to higher. Like if you notice as I turn this miniature, there are parts of him that feel blue. I have used no blue on this miniature. It is purely a transparency effect from using that phthalo green blue shade, which is super cool. So, you know, when you bring these pieces, you know, to play games with your friends and stuff, do not be surprised if they're like, wow, how long did this take you? You know, you must have used a ton of colors, you know, it's super well blended. They're going to be showering compliments on you, and you're going to be like, this took me an hour. This took me 30 minutes. Yeah, these techniques are great. I love this part too, when you start to tip the model upside down, because you really start to see how much contrast there is. It's not quite that, like, you know, if I want to use a fancy word, chiaroscuro, where it's like pure black, and it's not quite like the comic style. Like it feels just in between. I don't know how to put it. Like it's still super dramatic. It's not like perfectly smoothly blended, and you know, it's just cool, right? So right now what I'm doing is I'm getting in there and I am just kind of hitting some of the more detailed parts. At this point too, we're starting to mix in a little bit of the yellow. The yellow is like semi-opaque, so it's not quite fully transparent, but it's still gonna feel very, very green with so much green around it. And we're starting to hit some of these parts. We really want to make sure that there's not really much of anything coming across as pastel. Pastel is great for some situations, but when we're trying to go for full saturation or like a full intensity, the more pastel, the higher percentage that a miniature is pastel, the less intense or less vibrant the color is. Now, you need a little bit of something else on the miniature that is grayish or pastel to help make that saturation feel super, super bright. But on the parts that we're painting that we want super saturated or super vibrant green, we don't want anything pastel. All right, Pirate Crew. So we are nearing the end of this video. There's only about like a minute left. I just wanted to thank you all again for your support. If you guys have any questions on this technique, please reach out and ask. I feel like you guys don't have enough questions for me, and I'm either explaining these things really well or you're just not reaching out. So please reach out. You're not bothering me. I enjoy the contact. I enjoy being passionate about this hobby with somebody else. And yeah. So I'm going to be putting up some pictures of the finished version. In the next video, we're going to be going over how to paint his trousers. And that'll really be it. I think we might do his hair as well. And then we're going to be jumping over to how I painted the blue for Captain America, which I'm super pumped about, by the way. And yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Hope you guys are all staying safe and getting through these crazy times. Yeah, just from my family to yours. Hope you're all doing well, and we'll see you in a few weeks. Bye.